why do we, on the one side, why do we need to have more when we're a larger community, and like we should be supporting and validating each and every person within this community, no matter where you come from. I think the perspective that I had was is that in a perfect world, where we didn't need to have all these labels, you know, it would be easier for us to be able to navigate the world and feel like we can be who we are. Unfortunately, living in 2024, no matter where you are in the world, it's very different how you grow up, right? You can grow up in a Muslim family, you can grow up in North America, you can grow up in Saudi Arabia, you can grow up in a family that's extremely religious, or they have different political views, so because of that, where we're at, it's very hard to for me on my side of it to say like, oh yeah, we shouldn't do that, and just again expect everyone to live in maybe a blue house. Welcome to the Queer Quest podcast, your beacon of light and sprinkle of glitter in the queer community. I'm your host, 𝐄𝐩𝐢𝐬𝐤, CEO and founder of Queer Quest and a transformation coach for queer individuals. And together, we are embarking on a journey of transformation. Each week, we bring you a new training topic or connecting with visionary queer leaders in healing and coaching, diving deep into conversations that inspire growth, celebrate diversity, and empower you to live authentically. So wherever you are, settle in and let's get ready to unlock the vibrant potential within. This is where your quest begins. Hello, all you fabulous souls, and welcome to another episode of the Queer Quest podcast. I'm your host, 𝐄𝐩𝐢𝐬𝐤, the CEO and founder of Queer Quest and a transformation coach for people in the queer community. And if you are watching this, you'll notice that, again, I'm not on my own. I have a very special guest in the house today. So we are introducing Christopher Michael. And Christopher is a conversational intuitive and a coach, and he's helping people figure out who the hell they are. Thanks for coming on the podcast, Christopher. How are you doing this evening?
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
Of
Doing really
course.
great. It's a little later here, and so I'm a little tired. So if I slip up, then please just bear with me. Smile and laugh.
It's all good. Like I said, being in Bali and, which is on the other side of the world for the US and Canada, I often find that, we're in completely different states because it's usually my morning and their evening or vice versa. So it's all good. And I'm excited to have a cool conversation today.
Me too. Me too.
Beautiful. So the reason we're having this conversation today and what we're going to be talking about is, Christopher reached out to me in the DMs on Instagram because he's an avid listener of the podcast, which is great. So it's great to have someone on here who listens to the Queer Quest podcast and knows what we are actually all about. But we were talking a back and forth about all of the letters, all of the acronyms that are in the LGBTQIA plus community, the queer community. And we were discussing about, we don't even know necessarily how many different letters are in there these days. And the conversation that we wanted to talk about was, the purpose of all of this, and also giving a bigger understanding around the whole queer community, because there is a divide. Some people in our community struggle with the word queer, especially if they're gay or they're lesbian or whatever acronym they are. They don't necessarily define themselves by the entire community because they may have a misunderstanding around the word queer. So we're going to jump in and have a really cool conversation around this because, like I said, there are opposing views. But yeah, for understanding out there, what do you define queer as, by the way, just to start with that?
I think that you and I have a very similar understanding of the definition. I would classify queer as anything that goes against societal norms. Kind of exactly how you said it, which is the thing that like sparked for me when I started listening to your podcast. I was like, yeah, queer. Got it. It's not necessarily, it doesn't have to be a gay thing. It doesn't have to be a lesbian thing. It doesn't have to be a fringe LGBTQIA thing. It's just a queer thing. It's just what it is.
Yeah, to me, it's queer is like the movement around this community that's trying to help us move forward to break down some of the social constructs that have been put on us by society over the years for whatever different reason. And it's trying to break free of those chains so that we can actually move forward as an entire community. Of course, we understand that people are, within that community are, like I said, are gay or lesbian or transgender, non-binary, asexual, polyamorous, all of those different areas, right? Like I said, the spectrum is sexuality, it's gender, it's relationships, and also other things outside of that. Even some spirituality stuff is kind of, like I said, what I class as queer, because it's trying to say, like I said, go against the societal norms so that we can, like I said, break those things down and move forward as a society, as a culture, as a community. Because I believe that, if we're just pushing forward as just a gay community trying to fight for what's right for the gays, then we're better together than we are apart. So sometimes, understanding that we all want to be seen, heard, understood, and felt, and also have similar equal rights, then it's also an important thing that we can work together. So for me, again, as you said, we have a very similar understanding of the word queer. Um, but let's jump in and talk about the different acronyms and where this conversation started, because it came about because you have a specific view around it. So I'd love to hear you share that with the audience.
Yeah, so I mean, I think like a lot of your listeners, we've all been on this sort of queer quest, a quest of some kind, some sort of journey, whether it's personal, professional, romantic, whatever that looks like for us. We're we're all on a journey, and I think the more I think about, and I identify as a gay man, um, so I mean, I wear the labels myself, so I
Mm,
I think a lot about labels and lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, like all the letters, right? And I wonder if the purpose is to come together and to build a stronger community. I like what you said, we're better together. The more letters we add to this acronym, is it actually serving a purpose? Is it doing us more harm than good? Like if you think about a community, it seems to me like it's a lot like only people who live in blue houses will understand people who live in blue houses. Only people who live in yellow houses will understand people who live in yellow houses. And my view is like we're all people who live in houses. And sometimes we go outside. Sometimes we visit our friends at their house. And sometimes we're just like exploring a community. And I don't think that there's necessarily anything wrong with the acronym. So I want
yeah,
to be upfront about that. But I do wonder if when we adopt a label and we box ourselves into it and we become so rigidly identified with it, is that actually serving us or is it keeping us isolated from the larger community? So I'm just curious if that's what I've been chewing on lately.
I see, and I
And it came up in
completely.
our conversation.
Yeah, that was what came up in our conversation when we were having our back and forths in the DMs, and I completely hear you and see you and understand that perspective, because it makes sense. Like, why do we, on the one side, why do we need to have more when we're a larger community, and like we should be supporting and validating each and every person within this community, no matter where you come from. I think the perspective that I had was is that in a perfect world, where we didn't need to have all these labels, you know, it would be easier for us to be able to navigate the world and feel like we can be who we are. Unfortunately, living in 2024, no matter where you are in the world, it's very different how you grow up, right? You can grow up in a Muslim family, you can grow up in North America, you can grow up in Saudi Arabia, you can grow up in a family that's extremely religious, or they have different political views, so because of that, where we're at, it's very hard to for me on my side of it to say like, oh yeah, we shouldn't do that, and just again expect everyone to live in maybe a blue house, because the people who are I mean, I know growing up living in a blue house, I felt very purple or pink, and I didn't feel like I fitted into that house of people. So I guess I'm navigating that perspective from my own upbringing, going like, I didn't fit into the house that I was grown up in, and what do we do if we want to fit into those houses to change society, so that, like I said, people don't need to worry about what house they're living in. They're feeling able to be themselves, like authentically at their core.
Yeah. What do we do? I don't know. I think it's going to be different for everybody, right? I think so for like the past 23 years, I've also been a hairstylist. So I've worked in an industry that sort of celebrates my
Yes,
identity,
yes, definitely.
right? I'm rewarded for it, sought out for it. Um, not the identity, but you know what I mean? It's like sort of celebrated in the hair community.
Yeah.
And
People
so
want a
I
gay
haven't had a
hairdresser. They want to feel
huge,
comfortable around that. Like, they feel like they can trust you more and have a good conversation and all that kind of stuff, right?
totally, yeah, women feel safe in your chair because you're not going to accidentally like bump them or it won't get awkward and
Exactly.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's been really great. So what do we do? I mean, I love this analogy about like different houses because what I found to be useful for me on this journey is people will judge me no matter what I do, right? So why would I want to give them something to judge that isn't me? Because then why would I be upset about them judging the person that I'm actually not? So I heard this quote one time about, have you heard this thing about the angel in the marble, Cristiano? Where
Tell
like
me, and I'll let
this
you know if I've
sculptor
heard it.
was given a he was given a giant rock of marble, and this little boy asked him, "What are you going to do with this big rock?" And he said, "Little boy, I'm not going to do anything with it. I'm going to find something in it." So he started chipping away at this rock, pieces that really weren't what it was supposed to be, and exposed the angel and set the angel free. And so I thought to myself, like, oh, maybe the way to discover who I am is to actually start removing the things that I know that I'm not. And so I started looking at my relationships. I started looking at my behaviors. I started looking at my language and removing the things that didn't feel like me and trying to make a conscious change to step into the person that I actually enjoy being the most. And when I do that, it's not even about a label, right? It's just about a self expression. And so it didn't matter that I was gay because I could hang out with straight people. I could hang out with gay people. I could hang out with lesbians. I'm a gay man who drives a Subaru for crying out loud. So I have all these stereotypes around me, but none of them define me. And so what I wanted to do for me is figure out what is the essence that's driving the need to belong. And when I started tuning into that, that's when the conversation of all of these letters started to show up. And all these stories, like there was a Sunday tea dance party that I would go to once a month. And we tried and we tried and we tried to get females to show up. And a couple times they did. And when I spoke to them after, they were like, we don't want to come because there are no women there. And I was confused by it because I thought, well, they're not here because you're not coming. So if you're not coming because they're not here, and they're not here because you're not coming, then what then is the answer? So what are we doing to make them feel welcome? Is this a place that you even want to be? I mean, do they want to be? Does it matter that they're not? So all these questions started to show up, and I started to wonder, what is this thing about identity? What is the thing that keeps people away? And I think it's belonging. I think it's safety. Um, I think it's knowing that they matter. And I try in the salon every day to make sure that the person sitting in my chair knows that it's not just the hair that they are wearing on their head, it's everything inside that really makes the difference.
Mm.
Like, I could cut you bangs or not cut you bangs, but nobody really gives a shit about your bangs if you're an ugly person. So you're a beautiful person, so you can wear whatever you want. How do you want to express it? And these are the conversations I have with clients all the time in the salon, and that's sort of what led me on this path of becoming a coach.
Yeah, I
What would
love
it be
that.
like if I could just have these conversations?
Have these conversations all the time, every day with people who really need to have them and hear them. And because sometimes, like I said, people do keep themselves in a space that feels comfortable for them, right? Because again, you've spent a long period of your life maybe internalized in a world feeling like I can't express myself, right? Which is a lot of, like I said, people in the queer communities experience, whether you're gay, lesbian, transgender, non-binary, whatever you fit, like polyamorous, even people who are, in those kinds of relationships that are different to societal norms. They had to grow up in a world where it was a cisgendered, heteronormative, you know, like get married, have, buy a house, have the 2.4 kids, get a car, go on a holiday every 2 years, like, XYZ kind of lifestyle thrown on them. And it's only when you get to a certain like level within yourself of maturity or acceptance where you start to, unravel some of those pieces. And so I completely understand, like, for me, like when I came out as gay, I didn't go to I went to a gay club, right? Yes, of course, there were women there, of course, and there were quite a few of them because in Sydney, it's quite an inclusive space. Like, we have whole streets that are for people in the LGBT community, right? Which is amazing. And so, but there were transgendered people, there were people from everywhere, which was great, which was what I loved. But I went there because I wanted to be a part of the gay community. And then from that, I got to know and meet other people, because before that, I didn't know a single gay person. I'd only ever seen what I'd seen on TV of representation of gay people, which was either super, super, super effeminate or someone getting, attacked and murdered on shows like CSI, because that's how they represented us, especially back, 20 or so years ago, right? Of course, a lot has changed. It's still nowhere near where it should be. We still are working towards getting better positive representation. But for me, as someone who was coming to terms with that and wanting to be in an environment where I felt I could be myself, I wanted to be around gay people. But as I evolved, of course, over the years, like, and explored my identity, right now I want to be around different levels of queer people, because I feel like those are the people that are going to open my eyes to different ways of living. Because again, I don't necessarily, like, I mean, I understand on a certain level of, like, the people who are in the transgender community, because I've spoken to a lot of different people about it, right? But I can't sit there and say that I, on a internal conscious level and embodied level, that I know that experience. So being around that is what I want, because it makes me then question more about, okay, like, what is my perspective on X, Y, and Z? Because this person had to struggle with that, because that's a part of who they are now, to try to be that way. And so I'm specifically looking for queer spaces, right? I'm trying to create queer spaces for that kind of experience, because it is very difficult. As you said, you're writing, you have a specific dance, and all you're getting is gay men, because the women want to be in a space that feels comfortable for them. I'm going to go out and, enjoy myself. I also, want to dress up and feel like there's my kinds of people there, because I can understand going into an area where, again, maybe I'm one of two women, and then maybe the other woman is a straight girlfriend of one of my gay friends, and I'm a lesbian. So then, for me, I feel, again, even though you're looking around, it's the wider queer community, like we're trying to be. It's built up with a majority of people where I feel completely like another, right? I stick out in the crowd as someone that's not there. I know what you're trying to say is, like, we want to create spaces for that. It's something that I guess I'm trying to spin the wheel on, trying to be able to do as well. And I think the question that I have there is, you know, what do you think, like, is the reason why these women won't come? Like, and how do you get one to come, to two to come, to three to come, to 10 to come, to 20 to come, so it becomes a space where it is, like I said, more inclusive? What about the environment now is making those women feel that they don't belong there?
Well, that's the question, right? And I
Yeah,
think when I looked at it, they're not part of the planning process. So they don't have a say in the matter,
they don't
right?
have
They're
a seat
coming to
on the
somebody else's
table.
house.
Exactly. And then again, it's just this the whole blue house, red house. I'm going to someone else, I'm going to have dinner at someone's house, and everyone else in that house is blue, and I'm the only red one. But again, what's being served for dinner is something that I can't eat, which
Yeah.
is why I guess there are blue houses, red houses, green houses, pink houses, orange houses, purple, gold, glittery, everything, right? Because people struggle to feel like they fit into that one there. And again, I'd love that if there was just one big rainbow house. And that's, I think, the ultimate goal. It's just right now, I think people are trying to, find these acronyms, because they go, okay, maybe, I initially thought I was gay, but through my exploration of that, I realized that maybe there's part of me that's also, you know, non-binary. So then am I really a gay person anymore? Or am I like, where do I fit on that scale? And so then they're trying to fit into their community so that they feel like, okay, like again, I'm going into this blue house, but I feel a bit, I feel a bit orange. So there's a part of me that might fit into this blue house, but there's also a part of me that doesn't. And I'm noticing that there's more people that are not like me than there are like me.
In a world where every journey is unique, one path shines brightly for the queer community. Introducing QueerQuest, the first of its kind personal development platform designed exclusively for us, by us. At QueerQuest, we understand the multifaceted journey of queer identity. That's why we've created a space where you can explore, learn, and grow with the guidance of queer experts from around the globe. Whether you're seeking to enhance your physical, mental, emotional, or spiritual well-being, QueerQuest is your gateway to transformation. Imagine embarking on quests tailored to your journey of self-discovery, finding community, and unlocking your queer excellence. QueerQuest offers online courses, coaching programs, and soon workshops, seminars, retreats, and festivals, all designed to empower you to live your best life. Ready to start your adventure? Join us at www.queerquest.vip to become part of a movement towards personal and collective greatness. Sign up today to join the waitlist and be the first to know when we launch. QueerQuest, where your journey of self-discovery and transformation begins. Don't just dream of a life filled with pride and purpose, make it your reality with QueerQuest. Visit www.queerquest.vip now. Your quest awaits.
And so I want to go find a house that's suitable for me to feel okay like that. But again, what I find out there is the struggle is, and the reason why I find that there's a lot of isolation and loneliness, because this was another thing that we spoke about, is that because of it, people don't know where to go to find people in their community. They don't know how to have these conversations, because again, like a lot of the time, all these conversations happen up here, you know. And again, if you don't have the right resources, the right people, like the right role models to look up to, how do you know that is how you really feel? Now, when we talk about things like, say, people who are, are younger, like people who are, under the age of 18, and they feel like they're transgender, but they're in a family who doesn't want to, who might think like, oh, I don't want you to go through this transition period, because if you do, and this is the wrong thing for you, then this is going to be traumatizing for you. So in some areas they may be trying to protect you, but also they might be fearing you because they don't understand your experience. So they try to again keep you to come and keep you in their house instead of trying to help you do that. And so that's the thing that I also hear is like the when we're talking about that experience, is that whenever I've talked about those kinds of things on social media, I get the straight people. A lot of people will say like, well, we're going to have these people change, and then they're going to regret it, and blah blah blah, because there was that one person that did it in bloody Turkey, and yada yada yada. And so every person who's transgender is going to make a mistake, right? Whereas it's actually like those the things that you hear on TV where the one person made a mistake is actually the very, very minute minority. The people who are going through that position of really feeling like they're not in the right body actually do that, and they know from a young age. And unfortunately, again, they get repressed, and then they feel like they're stuck into judgment from society as to who they should be. And sometimes they go through their entire life, right? Luckily, if you grew up in a supportive family, and they allow you to be yourself from a young age, that's amazing. Look at where you can be. But like I said, I know people in my life that are like in their 40s, they've got families, but I know that they definitely still go out, and they on the side, and they dress up as women to experience that, because that's who they feel they are authentically. And so they have a separate life. What do we do in this world to make, like I said, to not have to have all these acronyms, because or is it like that the acronyms are okay, but the main thing that we need to have a discussion around is like, it's okay for you to be this identity, but that's not all of who you are, right? I think that's the thing that we
Yes.
want to get at, is that you can be gay, you can be lesbian, you can be non-binary, asexual, polyamorous, whatever these are. We can also be a spiritual person. You can also be, someone's brother, someone's, like you can have a career, like you have all these different hats that you wear in life. And some of these hats just you can't take off, right? Because that's who you are, right? Some of them you can change. Like I said, your career, you can look, you know what? I have been XYZ for many years, but I don't define myself as that anymore. But that was once an identity of yours. And that could be the same for your sexuality, right? Again, you might have once defined yourself so heavily as a gay person, but what happens later down the track when you start to realize maybe I'm pansexual, maybe I'm bisexual, maybe whatever it is, right? Because we grow and we evolve, and so do our beliefs, things, and change. So I'd love to hear what your kind of perspective is on that, because I feel like I have just gone on for a few minutes there.
I loved it. One of the things that stood out to me was you talked about like, and you didn't use this expression, but you alluded to our family of origin, like kind of how we're raised when people are raised in an environment where they're free to be themselves, they're free to explore, they're free to be curious about whatever desire shows up for them. That's such a beautiful thing. And I see parents, I live in Asheville, North Carolina, so I see a lot of that here. And I think it's a beautiful thing. Sometimes I think it goes a bit too like detached from like parenting and becomes a bit more friend zone. But who am I to say, right? That's not my relationship. That's just my observation of someone else's. And I'm not saying it's right, and I'm not saying it's wrong. But what I think you touched on is so important is that we are all dealing with not just our own experiences, but the reactions to the experiences that the people who raised us had long before we even became a thing. And so I know so many of us, so many people in the queer community are that they have issues in family dynamic. They have challenging relationships with their parents or their siblings or their churches or their schools or whatever. There's a lot of that going on. And I think the way that we start to shift out of that for ourselves, and I think ultimately for our community and ideally for the world, is that we need to stop looking out there for what's wrong. And we need to start tuning in to ourselves and asking ourselves, what is it that I actually want? And what power do I have in this moment? And I think the most powerful thing we always have is choice. And sometimes when I talk to people about having choice, they're like, well, I mean, I could never choose that because if I chose that, then this would happen. Yes, that might actually happen. If I choose to like say this thing to my boss, I might get fired, right? Yes, that might actually happen, but that doesn't mean you don't get to choose. So the choice that you're actually making by not choosing to do something about it is to stay in the position where you know you're not happy. And if people got profoundly related to the fact that by not choosing, you're actually choosing something else. It's the act of not choosing that keeps you stuck. And so, and maybe
Yeah.
you do have a conversation, but you don't have it in that way with your boss. Maybe you do confront your mom about saying that thing she said to you when you were 7 that you've never forgotten. Maybe you do like, maybe you do tell your partner, I thought I wanted monogamy, but this person really turned me on and I kind of want to explore that. And I think it all happens in like not up here, but out here. Bring the elephant into the room and actually have the hard conversation. Know that it will be uncomfortable, but if you dance in the discomfort long enough, it starts to be more comfortable. And I think that we avoid discomfort. And I think that's why we chop our identity up into micro niches so that we don't have to confront our discomfort that maybe wasn't even ours to begin with. It was sort of conditioned into us by discomfort that our parents had growing up in the 40s, 30s, 50s, whenever they grew up. It's just inherited discomfort. And I think if we stay out there and we think the answer's out there, we're just going to stay in that discomfort. We have to check in.
Yeah, no, I hear you, and I think, the thing that I think is the most difficult for, I guess, from my perspective as a coach, and seeing this and observing this. Again, this is not for everyone, but I noticed that in life there is a lot of people are dealing with a lot of different kinds of trauma that have happened to them. Now we can talk about people dealing with generational trauma, like stuff that's happened within their own family, right? Like throughout different years. Like I said, each generation things change and whatnot. But like, if you've, you often find that if there's like people said, like, I have a predisposition to alcoholism, right? Now, oftentimes that means that you've just had a lot of people in your family who are alcoholics, and then they breed those kinds of behaviors onto their children, who then pass those down, right? Doesn't necessarily mean that because, it's a genetic thing, it's a generational thing, and beliefs and behaviors create belief systems, and then create behaviors that are, I guess, that can be negative towards that, right? So we're talking about that level of generational trauma. But you can also look at it when we talk about generational trauma, like from your religion, like, you growing up in religion, and it's some of these churches living in a year, that was 2,000 years ago, right? From a book that was written back in a completely different time, right? You can have different traumas from that. You can also have different traumas from your own community. So like the gay or the queer community, or whatever community you're in with here, dealing with that. Like, for example, like a lot of the people that I see having from my perspective, having an issue with being like labeled within themselves as queer instead of, say, something like as a gay man, is because they had to fight through things that happened in the 70s and 80s, with different crises that happened to get to a place where we all now are today. Like these people from different generations had to fight, like really, like a lot tougher than we are doing today, to get to a place where we are today. And because of that, they have a different perspective on their experience, because they lived through the trauma. And unfortunately, like I said, some people in today, we might still have some of that generational trauma being handed down to us because of that, right? Because people have a different perspective because of a different experience. And so if you are someone out there who is, like I said, wanting to delve further into your queer identity, again, there's so many different acronyms within that. What I want you to know is that, like, you have to deal with some of that trauma for you to fully get to a place of your own identity, and not just your own identity as a queer person, but just as who you are, right? So, I am gay, I am gender fluid, I am queer, I am a coach, I'm an entrepreneur, I am, a brother, I am a son, I'm a partner. But at my core, I'm Cristiano, right? And how
Hmm.
can I get to a place of being more authentically me if I don't deal with the trauma that I've had to deal with throughout my life, but also like what's happened to my like the generations before me, through all the cultures and the family that I'm within. So I guess the bigger picture is that what I want to, paint for people out there is like, doing the work on yourself means you are going to be able to be more authentically you, because you don't have all these barriers that are in front of you that stop you from figuring that out. Like I said, I want you to identify as who you truly are, because if that makes you feel more comfortable and more understood and more seen and more heard and feel you're most authentic, that's great. But what I want you to try to start to think about is this all you are? No, you're a hell of a lot more than all of those things combined. But those experiences of you, they've shaped your life. You being gay, you being, like I said, asexual, you being non-binary or transgender or polyamorous, those experiences do shape who you are, but they don't have to define you. And I think that's maybe the point that I can hear you trying to make, is that we don't want to be defined by all these things. We have to deal with the stuff that's happening to us from outside, but actually deal with it within, so that we can, like I said, be authentically more of who we truly are.
Yes, exactly. That is the angel in the marble. You stripped all that shit that didn't belong, like remove all of it just temporarily, right? And then, like, now here I am, naked, exposed, vulnerable, uncomfortable, and then start trying them on. Like, I know this fits me. I know this fits me. I know I'm gay, polyamorous, asexual, transgendered, and you own it. And that's the choice that you made. You're not that because somebody said, well, you're effeminate, so you must be gay. I mean, growing up, my dad, I never came out to my dad, Cristiano. I never had to, because dad knew, and he never talked to me about it because dad was dad. And he said to my mom, all of Christopher's friends seem to be that way, so he must be that way.
Gotcha.
And that stuck with me for years, right? And so I had to, like, understand what is that way? What is that way that I am?
What did he mean? What does he
And
mean by that? You kind of thing. Also, is that what you mean as well?
he meant gay. Just, he
Yeah.
was that way. He liked guys, and he's an old Vietnam veteran, so he didn't get it. And it took me probably 20 years to work through that before
Yeah,
I got to a point where I had to understand that my dad, I imagine he doesn't know any other gay people. So
exactly.
then it can be my responsibility to show him what gay can be. And I developed a beautiful relationship with my dad. Did he understand my sex life? No, but who talks to their parents about their sex life? Not a lot of people. Some people do, and I think it's a beautiful thing, but I didn't. And I doubt my dad wants to know much about that. So,
Yeah. But you got to, I
but
think
he didn't
what
have
you're
that
trying to
understanding.
say is that he got to see more of the, I guess, what does it actually mean to be a gay person? It's not just about who you have sex with. There's a deeper understanding and core thing around being a gay person, right? It's almost like a spirituality in a sense, right? It's like there's a spirituality to being gay or to being queer, right? And I think your dad got to see that kind of spiritual belief system in a way through you being who you are.
Yes. Yes, it wasn't so much about giving my dad the answer about what a gay man is. It was about challenging his idea of what they should be. And that's been sort of my life is always challenge what people say that it should be because there's no one way. And that's sort of like the core of this conversation, right? Like yes, it's a yes and conversation. Yes, I'm gay. And I like sports. Yes, I'm gay. And I love outdoor activities. Yes, I'm gay. And it's not, I'm gay, but I don't like all that stuff. It's a
Correct.
yes and
There's many
conversation.
different ways to be any of these acronyms in the world because there are many different people who fit into that, and however many people are in our community is how many different ways there are to be queer or be gay or be lesbian or be transgender, because every person has, like I said, a unique set of experiences and belief systems that is forming who they are. And again, that is just one part of their identity. So again, like I said, like everyone's going to come in differently because they are different. And I think that's the key that we might want to wrap up with is that again, you are who you are at your core. You can be all of these different things and they're all beautiful, and that's amazing. Just don't lose sight of who you truly are by trying to fit yourself too tightly into one box or one house. You know, try having dinner at someone else's house, because even if that, they're not serving what you like, you might realize that you get to understand what different kinds of foods or different kinds of cultures or different kinds of flavors really are. And you never know, one of those dishes might be something that helps you to realize something deeper about who you are as well.
Beautiful. Yep.
Amazing. Well, it's
I
been a
love that.
great, amazing conversation. I really honor you for coming on here today, Christopher, and sharing your perspective. I think it's going to be a helpful conversation out there. I'd love, because there might be some people out there who want to get in touch with you. I know that you said you're a coach. So how can people get in contact with you if they want to understand more about you and what you offer?
I think Instagram is the best way. You can find me on Instagram, 𝐄𝐩𝐢𝐬𝐸 Coaching. I am on Facebook. I'm not as active there, but definitely slide in my DMs. If I post something and you have a completely different reaction, that's a conversation I really want to have. I really want to understand how does this land for you? Not just like don't just double tap it, right? Like actually be like, I don't know about that. I want to have that conversation.
Well, that's how we are having this conversation today, because you instead of just double tapping, you reached out, and we had now we're having a beautiful conversation. So again, like I said, do what Christopher does, because you might have a cool conversation like we have today.
Yes. Yes. Thank you so much. This has been
Welcome.
great. I had no idea I was going to be invited onto your podcast, but this is what conversation does, right? Connection, community.
Exactly right. Beautiful. And as a conversational intuitive, again, you've intuitively led yourself to a beautiful conversation.
Thank you.
Awesome. And out there, if you guys have got, things are coming up for you, you've got questions, you've got a story you've got to share, you know how you can find me. I'm across all social media under Cristiano Green. So reach out to me, share your questions, say your stories. I always get back to everyone who reaches out to me. And other than that, I'm going to be back with another episode of the Queer Quest podcast next week. But until then, always remember that you've got this and I've got you. Bye for now.
Are you ready to embark on a transformative journey towards love and happiness? Introducing the 21-day Gay Men's Guide to Love and Happiness. This isn't just a course, it's a pathway to discovering your true self, overcoming challenges, and embracing happiness. Join hundreds of gay men who've found joy and freedom. Learn from Cristiano Green, a coach with 20 years experience and a journey like yours. For a limited time, get this life-changing course at 75% off with a 100% risk-free guarantee. There's nothing to lose, but so much to gain. Your new life is just a click away. Enroll in the 21-day Gay Men's Guide to Love and Happiness today. Visit theglobalpridecollective.com and start your journey towards a happier, more fulfilled you.